What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers. Subscribe to our Patreon free to stay in the loop. Arm yourselves. Typology stuff. I think FI operates on two levels, or there are two different forms of FI. On the first level, you have standard FI, or standard level FI, or cultural FI. Now, people typically frame FI as if it is what you think, your internal values disregarding everything else. And that's part of it, but that is almost never the way FI typically operates, or the level FI typically operates on. Rather, FI typically operates on this social or cultural level, not at all what you think. Instead of generating or working on your own values, working through your own values, you're presented sets of values constituting what most people within your culture think. And I think this has a lot to do with the way TE interacts with FI. And most FI types are going to spend all their time here, or it's going to be their primary focus. They think this is their home base. Which dining set speaks best to my character as a human being? What spiritual or political system speaks best to my character as a human being? It's a consumerist level, this level of FI. And it's dirty because you are manipulated into believing individuality is the object, and these sorts of values are like objects you choose based on the selection spread out in front of you. I think that's part of the reason typical FI and typical FI types bug me so much. You are very enthusiastic and aggressive about your Kmart belief system. But there's a flip side to this, and this flip side is the reason I will still go to bat for FI as a function. Why are these people, quotes people, so enthusiastic about their Kmart belief systems? It's because another part of them is challenging that. And they hate that. They hate that part of themselves that challenges this consumerist value system bullshit. And they hate it, of course, because it's them. This part that is challenging this pick this to figure out who you are thing is actually them. But they don't know that because they don't know themselves. Because knowing yourself is frightening, it's painful, takes a lot of work, and you're not guaranteed to get anywhere. Now, you won't get anywhere with your Kmart belief systems either, but at least they are promising you direction and purpose, and the moral high ground. Another FITE intersection. Because whatever it is you believe almost certainly will not have the moral high ground. If the way you conceptualize the moral high ground is democratic, majority vote, because that makes you easier to control. But the reason FI is beautiful is it taps into values that are good, are worthwhile, in spite of the majority vote. Now, that might not actually make them right if there is any standard for rightness that isn't brainwashing, but this other sort of FI is a lot more interesting, and it's a lot more righteous. And what I'm describing here is what I'm calling right now Primeval Fi, but it doesn't really matter what you call it. I'm getting sick of all these dandy descriptors people are inventing for everything? Does everything need a dictionary entry? Does it always have to be snappy? Anyway, this other FI, or this other stage of action FI operates in underneath your nose, is finely attuned to what you actually want, what you think is right and wrong. And it's not in this nice little compartmentalized place people will try to put not just FI, but all functions. It's hooked into a lot of different shit. It's almost certainly not acceptable, and I think that's another FI-TE intersection. TE says FI, or Primeval Fi, if we internalize and try to act out all this weird shit you're thinking up, will be annihilated by the tribe. And that may be the case, but that doesn't change the fact this other level FI is operating on is you. And I'm beginning to think if repressed, it starts pulling strings the way your shadow might. But the reason I'm bringing all this up at all is I'm pretty tired of FI types in conflict with themselves. You're in conflict with yourself only because you are too stubborn or afraid to listen to yourself. The answers, the right answer, the you answer, is not this obscured hidden thing. It is communicating to you constantly. You are choosing to repress it in favor of your Kmart consumerist value system. God forbid you listen to your soul. No, much better to choose the rubber dick society is going to fuck you with so you can feel like an individual. You're blessed with a function that gives you a straight line into your soul, and you're disrespecting it. And when you demean and repress your spirit, there are only two ways that can end. You keep fighting the quotes good fight, continue to repress yourself, and remain a perpetually uncomfortable subject of other people. People who don't know you have a soul, people who don't care you have a soul, people who would prefer you didn't have a soul, or you keep fighting the quotes good fight and you lose. Your soul gets in control and uses your body like a kamikaze, or it lures you into a bad spot and peshy-whacks you. And I've used that word before. I thought it was obvious what that was, what that meant. Tommy in Goodfellas. He's gonna get made. It's a big thing. They walk him into a room. Just as he realizes he is not getting made, he gets shot in the back of the head. Joe Pesci. That is peshy-whacking. You think the people you love and trust most are going to give you what you've always wanted, and instead they give you a bullet to the back of the head. FI types always talk about this. Well, they frame everything like it's black and white, but then they spend a lot of time fussing over what is right or wrong. But I think really what they're doing, it's not about what's right or wrong, it's about what they're pressured to believe is right versus what they actually think is right. And the reason there's a conflict at all is what they actually think is right, if you're going by what you're pressured to believe's standards, is actually very wrong. And it's an intense feeling. Is myself actually right, or is what everyone is telling me is right? And why don't these things line up? Is the problem with me? Is there something wrong with me? And I'm ashamed I'm having this conflict to begin with, or is the problem with everybody else? And people are so quick to call everybody else, the rest of the world, stupid and evil, and they'll say that, but in practice, they don't act that way. An FI type realizes whatever it is they actually believe does not line up with what everybody else thinks, might be dangerous, might get them hurt, and then they repress it. And then, to shore up their cracking, fracturing identity, they double down on becoming McSoldiers. You know what you think. The conflict isn't about what's right or wrong, because again, you know what you think. You know what you think is right. The conflict, or the question, is whether or not you have the stones, or the minerals, or the sand to take your own side. I hate dealing with FI types who live in fear of themselves. FI types have great selves, and you have an organic, concrete core that most people would kill to have direct access to or communion with. And you're going to throw it away because you're afraid of the consequences of not shopping at Walmart. Get your shit together and choose yourself, or shop at Walmart and don't whine about it. This decision is easy. The action plan afterward is difficult. That's really difficult because that organic concrete core is as horrific as it sounds, but the decision is easy and you can make it whenever you want to. And I'm pretty sure TI operates in a similar way. Different feelings, concerns, and practices, but the broad strokes are about identical. I'll believe this because I think it puts me in a more advantageous, or at least safer, social position, feel bettery social position, and I might even tell myself I am choosing my own path and dedicate a substantial amount of time thinking about it, but there is, and always will be until you answer it, this sneaking suspicion something about everything you think is wrong. And that's terrifying because there's this nagging sense you don't know anything, and if you investigate that feeling, not only will you confirm you don't know anything, but also there is no way you'll be able to fit in with people or cultivate the emotions you want to cultivate once you've pulled that trigger. At least in the ways you think you're supposed to. But once you answer that nagging, ringing phone, you cease to disrespect the blade that is your essence. Gosh darn, doesn't it feel good to be able to make sense of things in a nonsense reality? With FI, damn, doesn't it feel good to have a moral center in a fundamentally amoral existence. Whatever it is you're figuring out, even though it doesn't matter, or whatever you believe in, even though it doesn't matter. I'm tired of listening to FI types droning when all of it could be answered, and then they could move on to more interesting things just by paying attention to themselves and not being a pussy. So we'll cut this video here. Normally I try to do updates in the beginning, some quick updates. I'd like to schedule another dream test, but I don't want to test types unless I know them inside and out, so I can exclude mistypes and make better sense of results based on the actual types, as best we can, of course. And I think the way we'll do that, because I don't know any other types better than I know INTPs, INFJs, and ENTJs. It won't be perfect, but I think what we'll do is we'll get a number of the types I'm looking to study into a server just like we did with the dream test, but this time instead of going straight into the dream test, we'll spend about a month picking their brains, refining my understanding of these types. And I'm thinking we'll do ENFPs, INTJs, and maybe ENTPs. I don't really I have experience with ENTPs, but I don't understand them very well. INTJs I have a decent understanding of. ENFPs I have a decent understanding of. Maybe we'll try some sensors. And I would like to have done sensors from the beginning, but they don't really have a huge presence on the channel. Not even the ones I talk about, i.e., ISTJs, ESFPs, ISTPs. That's kinda it. We'll see. I'll keep you updated. Keep your eyes open for a video explaining what's gonna happen and what we need. On the gaming front, check the description for the DayZ server information. I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it. We'll probably run it through late January. I haven't been using it very much. I bought Black Ops the day before the Steam Autumn sale, of course, but I modded combat training so I can relive high school with bots. It's a lot more fun than I remember. I'm still a Modern Warfare 2 fella, but spent a lot of time on Black Ops, and it's nostalgic going back to it, and it's still fun. Anyway, all the information you'll need for the DayZ server is in the description. I'll go ahead and list the mods there too, although I think DayZ automatically downloads mods when you try to join servers with them. And this is the Steam version, Direct Connect. There are 20 slots. It's very quiet. My ass is so unbelievably chapped about this sales bullshit. They sell Black Ops 1 for $40, and then a discreet special thank you to the patrons. Organizing, quotes, research projects feels a lot... I feel less stupid when people show they're willing or they care enough to put their money where their mouth is also. So, thank you. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.